News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And a jolly good morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dorset Street in Colombo. And our guest this morning is my friend, my colleague, the former diplomat, Bandula Jayasekara. Very good morning to you,
morning,
Bandula.
Faraz.
Wonderful to have you.
Are we going to agree to disagree today?
No, we must agree that there is an unprecedented level of corruption in this country and unprecedented lack of commitment to eradicate corruption. Now, Bandula, did you vote at the last election?
No, I have voted only once in my life.
Right.
People may not like me saying this, but I voted only once.
Well, at least you're straight up, up front. But Bandula, you didn't vote, but you still have your own thoughts, don't you? What did you think when you read in the Sunday Times that all the political appointed diplomatic positions, they were all recalled when the government changed? And we are now treated to the information that this government have also appointed several non-career or political appointees into the diplomatic world. Isn't that a double standard?
For us, no, you should have both the career, the foreign service people, as well as political appointed. That is accepted worldwide. There's no harm in that.
And it certainly adds a little bit of balance.
Yes, we have wonderful diplomats who have been like political appointees. If I mention like Neville Kanagaratna, Mangala Munasinghe, Stanley Kalpage, we have had wonderful like that. But what this government said was, okay, we are going to do away with this. We will give 70% for the career diplomats and 30% for the political. But it's worse now. What I was told, I spoke to some of my former colleagues, because you wanted me to check it out. They didn't want to come forward, but they have told me now it's worse. Now, earlier it was President Rajapaksa who made the appointments, right? But now there's a big problem. Now, President Sirisena sends his people. Then you have the Prime Minister. Then you have the former President. Then you have the Foreign Minister.
You mean the former President as in...
Former President Chandrika Kumartunga, not... Right? So then you have 4 people. So they have it's full of these people, and most of these foreign ministry people are not happy. And there is a union, there is a Foreign Service Officers Association. They are reluctant to come forward because, of course, they have to protect their jobs, even though it's a union. So it's worse. And let's not forget when Sunday Times came out with this and they highlighted. Most of them are from the UNP Executive Committee,
the
Executive
Exco.
So it's there. So you say, okay, you are going to change this, then you should have changed it. So people are not happy. The foreign service people are not happy. So if you make a promise, you should keep it.
Otherwise, don't bother making the promise.
So this is what... But I'm also told that with all respect to the former Foreign Minister Mangala Samaravira, that he hardly made any appointments. When I spoke to some people yesterday, he didn't, but it comes from all sides now.
Politically speaking, Mangala Samaravira seems to be quietly getting on with it, isn't it?
No, see, he has been a good foreign minister. After Mr. Lakshman Kadragama, he was very close to Minister Lakshman Kadragama. He said it was very difficult to fill his shoes, but he did a good job.
So it's nice, and it helps all of us when we see our elected officials, in this case Mangala Samaravira, doing their thing.
What they said was, the diplomat, they said he didn't interfere. So that's what is important.
So hands off. He would have set the policy in motion.
Yes, that's what he didn't interfere. And he had a wonderful association because of his closeness to Minister Kadragama.
Now, but it is important, isn't it, to have non-career or political appointees as well, because they'll be better suited to carry the political line.
And they can think out of the box for us, and they can think out of the box, and plus there is another advantage. They can reach the president or the prime minister directly. There's an advantage.
Right.
So that's what happens. But you should have the balance.
Did you have that when you
Yes,
were
of course I had the access when I served in 3 places. That helped at that time.
And
because
practically, how did that work? Did you pick your phone up and say, I want to talk to the president?
Yes, it worked. And then with President Rajapaksa was always, it was easy to reach him. He was available.
Right.
And then certain decisions, because those were difficult times with LTT.
Right.
So it was needed, instead of waiting, writing, and for the response to come after 3 days.
Yeah.
But we also got the freedom to decide, because it was really a volatile time.
Indeed. But the key here is that you were able to speak directly to the power.
Yes, and it helped. It helped to counter. Yeah. There was a big war, propaganda war. It
and
helped.
Did he then back you up on whatever it is?
Yes, he did. He did.
Right. So there's no backing out and say, I didn't say that.
No, he did. During when I served in three
you were,
states.
Where were you?
I was in Toronto. It was a very difficult time in Canada.
Yeah.
Then of course I was wronged in New York. That's another long story,
yes.
right? Of course he let me down in New York, right?
And he made amendments?
He made amendments. That's what all these leaders, they play chess. And they put you, so that's, I can say it directly. I've told to his face.
Yeah.
I was a victim of his nepotism.
Right.
So then finally I served in Australia.
Right. And no interference?
No interference.
And where did you enjoy it most?
I would say Australia was peaceful, but Canada was very challenging.
Challenging because the LTT media people were very much active.
Yes, of course. They sent me coffins, then they invaded the Consul General's office. So it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Right. So what was the level of protection you had?
So I must say the Canadians gave us full protection.
Right.
But I learned lots of things also for us, because when the LTT used to protest, I used to complain to the police. Mm-hmm. They said, no, let them vent. I learned something good in Canada. Let them vent. They gave us space. You stay here and protest. If you cross the line, the Canadian police came.
Right.
They handled it. So,
they handled it.
Yeah, so that was good. This is something which I learned, and I think Sri Lankans should learn about democracy. Let people vent. If they don't vent, there will be a problem. So they had spaces. Even in Australia, there are spaces. There's so much of debate about it.
Oh, so a bit like Speaker's Corner in London.
Yes, and they can, but they can't abuse, they can't try to assault you.
Yeah.
So that's a part of
there's
democracy.
Like an unwritten rule at Speaker's Corner that you can attack anyone, but you leave Her Majesty the Queen alone. And you can take issue, but you don't use foul language, especially when you're referring to Her Majesty the Queen. So that's nice and delicate and very diplomatic, isn't it? But, Bandula, what about this issue of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the allocation of the subjects of the Lotteries Board, the National Lotteries Board and the Development Lotteries Board? What's going on?
For us, that has become a joke. I cannot name names, but in the diplomatic circles here, they laugh about it.
Yeah.
They used to laugh when Professor G.L. Peiris used to give lectures, thinking the diplomats were university students.
Yeah.
People fell asleep, they laughed.
Yeah.
And about this also they laughed. This is really uncalled for. And you saw the Daily Mirror cartoon, which was circulated, and when Minister Ravi Karnanayak at the UN with the lottery tickets, trying to sell lottery tickets. That sums it up all. So maybe the Foreign Ministry might have to have a new Director General in charge of lotteries.
International division.
Yeah, international division in charge of lotteries. They should be trained. And it has become a joke in the Foreign Ministry.
But seriously speaking, do you think that the Minister, at least in his private moment, while he's having a cup of tea with Mela in the morning, at least do you think that in private he's reflected on this and thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't have done this?
Yeah, maybe. Or because it's his love and fondness for late... No, maybe, I'm seeing it in a different way for late Lalit Athuratmudali, his mentor. He came from that party.
Do you think that...
Maybe.
Well, I don't know, but I can't imagine.
Because the Mahapola, the whole thing, maybe, that he was a UNF member.
Yeah. But
you never know.
Yes, but, I think one of the cabinet spokespeople, there are 3 isn't there now, one of them said that, I think it was Dr. Senarap, posed the question, well, so what? There's there's no rule to say that you have to have lotteries with the Minister of Finance. But later on, Transparency International put out a statement saying that it's wrong because the Act refers specifically to the Ministry of Finance.
But for us, Foreign Ministry is the face of the country.
Yeah.
I mean, others can share the other ministries, but when it comes to the Foreign Ministry, the world is watching us.
Indeed,
they will laugh at us. So it's good for us to go to the Foreign Ministry and check whether they have a division, whether new staff had come there in charge of lottery. That's a joke. Because this is the face of Sri Lanka.
I was contacted by a person, I'm not letting on whether it's a man or a woman. This person told me that Minister Karunaka, in his office as Finance Minister, had sent about 100 people to the Lotteries Board for employment, and they were all on sort of contracts, and that the usual form is that when the ministers change, they all go. But in this case, apparently they're still being kept there.
Because it's under him.
Because it's under him. And now there's a mad scramble to make these people permanent.
That happens, it happened in the previous government, it happens now, it will continue to happen because that's how they get their votes.
But it's all very odd, isn't it?
It is odd, but it is happening, so we got to change, we must go on merit.
What would the world say if the Minister in charge of Fisheries, the Ministry of Fisheries, is given the Lotteries Board?
But let me bring this. I have been to Geneva when the former Minister Mahinda Samarasinghe used to attend the Human Rights Commission. And people laughed then, when before he spoke, they had Minister Mahinda Samarasinghe, Minister for Plantations and Human Rights. They did laugh then for us.
Yes.
We must remind our viewers.
But how ironic that he had plantations and human rights.
Right.
Because in my view, and I have some strong views on this, there is no greater abuse of human rights as what's going on the plantation.
I know you have been championing that, which we should go and do a program there.
We should, because in a room about 12 feet by 15, not just one family lived there, 2 or 3 generations. Grandfather, father, and his children, they all live in this little space.
Let's go and do some programs there for us.
It's heart-rending. I'd leave your wallet at home.
And also, coming back, so they should have used, when he was addressing the human rights, Minister for Human Rights, he would have used it. But people laughed. I was in the audience. People did laugh, the international community. So we cannot be a laughing stock.
Highly inappropriate, isn't it?
So this is what maybe Minister Rajendra pointed out.
Yes.
But when it comes, so that was odd, and this is odd.
But if we had the Minister of Fisheries handling the Lotteries Board, for example, then it would have been a very fishy business indeed, isn't it?
It's still it's okay, we have so much of confusion, but when it's the Minister of Foreign Affairs, so this is the tourism and foreign affairs, these are the faces of Sri Lanka.
It would have been better to have given him foreign and tourism, because they're both sort of interrelated.
Definitely.
And people can understand that. But instead, it's completely different.
Or foreign and like in Australia, for us, there's foreign and international trade.
Right.
That works very well. I think even Canada also has that.
If you did that, Malik Samari can be out of a job. And now the newspapers are claiming that Mr. Karunaka was shifted out of the Finance Ministry at the behest of Malik.
You have forgotten. It's not the newspapers. They're not claiming. They're quoting you. Your interview with Azad Salih.
Azad Salih, yes, indeed.
Which you had here, not the newspapers.
Well, that's the story was based
You're
around
quoted,
that.
yes.
Well, there you go now.
But Malik anyway has lots of money. He doesn't need this job.
Then why is he there?
Lots of people are there.
Is he
for more?
Oh, I see, for more.
Like Oliver Twist, give me more. Give me some more.
Can I have some more?
Some more.
Well, the people of Sri Lanka are getting fed up of all this, aren't they?
But what do we do? Jump to the sea? When that's polluted.
No, as the host of Patagada, I know it's at an earlier time, but have you approached Malik Samaravikrama to come on your program?
No, I think you have asked him
to
come. Then I met him at a Bradby dinner after the first leg in hosted by my classmate Tigre Level, and we asked him, but he just smiled and that's it.
Yeah. Bit of he slithered away.
Yeah, but I think they should come and say, if they have to say no comments, they should say no comments, but they should come to our program. This is democracy.
But I think some of the news channels in the UK are also having this problem, because Theresa May refused a senior anchor the traditional interview, and the anchor weren't very happy. So I thought to myself that England and Sri Lanka got lots of similarities, because we had a leader in Sri Lanka who called elections 2 years ahead and then lost.
Yeah.
And Theresa May had a 5-seat majority, only to now find that she got no majority.
Now you're talking of England. Now, did you read the Sunday Times? You are talking of the Foreign Ministry.
Yeah.
This Sunday, the Cafe Spectator. There is a battle between 1 and 2 in a European mission.
Right.
Right. I mean, I found out, I hope the information which I got was correct. They didn't have names.
Yeah.
But I think it's more refers to our mission in London. We need to verify that there were no names. My sources said 1 and 2.
Right.
And who's number 1 there in London? Who's the High Commissioner?
Who is it?
A lady, a relative.
Ah, yes, it's a relative of the Prime Minister.
Of the Prime Minister. And the number 2, if I am not mistaken, is a good Foreign Service officer.
What is wrong with these people? They promise us the world, and they don't even deliver a little hamlet. You know, they make all sorts of promises, and then once this power, it's a bit like having a cataract, isn't it? Because it clouds your vision. But in this case, Bandila, they've forgotten. What's wrong?
Yeah, London, and then France is having problems. Now the France, we have appointed old former secretary, was appointed by former President Kumaratunga.
Yeah.
He was trying to get extensions, and then I heard my sources at the ministry said that he was trying hard to get President Sirisena to come in to meet the new French president, but he failed. You know, some of these diplomats, they work hard towards the end because they want to get extensions. There's a period, you say thank you and goodbye. That's the way it should be. So now, people try that.
Now recently, when
not the Foreign Service officers, they don't do that.
Right.
Their term is over, they come back, serve and go back. But I'm sorry to say most of the political appointees do that.
Now the other day, we had the ambassador to the state of Qatar, ASP Linege, on the telephone. It was very nice of him to wake up all that time in the morning and so on. And he even gave out his personal mobile number to everyone who was...
He was a former Sri Lanka ambassador to Nigeria. And he couldn't serve his full term, so he returned.
Yes. Now that's an interesting appointment, isn't it? Because he was appointed by President Rajapaksa to Nigeria, and then couldn't finish. And now he's been appointed by...
He didn't want to finish because my friend Ratnapala, who was the deputy in Australia, he was sent to Nigeria because this ASP Linege couldn't handle mosquitoes and it was a difficult state. So he couldn't handle, so this Ratnapala was sent as number 2, to take over in Nigeria. But don't forget now, Atauda, Buddhi Atauda, who was ambassador to Netherlands, now he's going out as an ambassador to France. He also served in the previous...
So do you think Mr. Linege did a good job in Nigeria and sort of showed his colours, so that this government, this unity government, who were fighting Rajapaksa, they appointed him to the state of Qatar?
No, what I've heard is no.
Right.
But I want to be very brutally honest. What I've heard is no. But I think if you and I...
How come he got a job then?
No, because remember this case, that White House case.
The Peacock.
The Peacock House, and then President Rajapaksa was to go there. So there are lots of people play politics.
And then the pool that was supposed to have gold in it.
Yeah, they want to oil both sides. That's some more...
So but they excavated the pool and they found a pair of barter slippers.
And he refused, so maybe these are all rewards.
They found barter slippers after excavating. I wonder who got the contract to excavate it.
Maybe Bata.
But some construction company.
So this is what happens. So
is there a Penguin construction company?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, I've heard of Penguin, clothing manufacturing, that sort of thing, but not Penguin construction. But this is all this. Look at it. We're discussing complete non-delivery, utter non-delivery, do you think things will get better?
But for us, I mean, to add that, we should have policies, a foreign ministry, all these policies, and that should be followed. People will come and go, governments may come and go, like in India. Then the officials can follow that.
Yeah.
That's what we should have.
Right. Well, you know, we've got all sorts of questions coming in, Bandula. Obviously, you being on the program has led to all this. Oh, well, okay, we'll ask you the question, which is completely different from what we were discussing. A leading retired doctor said that GMO says it's true. Government says doctors can be imported, but they will be substandard and will not be a solution. And furthermore, with the present Z-score district-wise, there is a great injustice to some districts.
You and I have to study that.
We'll have to study that.
Study that.
But,
I thought today we're
but
discussing
we must
on
acknowledge that this viewer, I don't,
yeah.
It's completely anonymous, apart from the telephone number, is a regular viewer who raises very valuable points.
We need to have more qualified people to answer that.
We have another person, also must be a regular viewer, who says, can ASP Lienege think out of the box? Qatar is an important country to us.
No, I don't think he can think out of the box. They have a good foreign service ambassadors, like I will like name people like Ravinath Arya Singh. You should be able to think out of the box, go to the media, engage. Now, things have evolved. I read a book from a Canadian diplomat, which I could share with you. It's called Guerrilla Diplomacy.
Right.
You got to, there was a time you said no comments. Now you can't. You should not do megaphone diplomacy like a certain person did. I don't want to mention names here. But you should reach out to the media. Media plays a role.
Yeah.
So I don't think he could.
Right.
So it's very difficult. I know the former ambassador, Janta Palipana, who served. It's a huge place. We have our migrant workers who brings us lots of money to this country.
That's right.
He should be able to reach out. I hope he succeeds. That's what, for the sake of the country.
When I started asking that question, my question was actually going to be, on air, live, on the telephone, he told us that there's no problem, that there was enough of water and food and all the supermarkets are full and so on, and there's no problem, don't worry, but if you're worried, and he gave out his mobile number. I then read about 3 or 4 days later that Iran and Turkey have been sending emergency supplies to Qatar because they're running out of water.
Maybe Mr. Lienege was in his mansion.
In his ambassadorial mansion.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a peacock mansion over there?
Maybe, who knows?
Who knows?
He has enough money.
But what I'm trying to say, Bandula, is how important is to have a head of mission who can deal with the Sri Lankan population there. I mean, in this case, there's lots of migrant workers who are just doing unskilled jobs.
You should have people who can reach out for us. That's very important. So that training has to be given before they go. It's not worth training them in Colombo. You should send them to faraway places who should be able to reach out. Because it's an honor to serve one's country.
Indeed.
You should be able to do that.
Yeah.
That's important.
But, you
should have good public relations skills.
I remember some years ago going to Riyadh and driving around the... I didn't need to know where the Sri Lankan embassy was because there's all sorts of people hanging around and literally camping out. I think the systems, the situation is different now. But these people, we need to bear in mind that they've left behind their families and they're bringing back comparatively very little amount of money from what they're paid. So they've sacrificed so much here. And we need to be able to recognize these people are all national treasures, aren't they?
And for us, with all respect, whatever people say, I mean, we all have our good and the bad. But I must tell you, during my time, where Sajin, he was hands-on.
Right.
He did a hands-on. Anybody could reach him. Yeah. That was something good, I must say.
Yes, I remember you saying that even the drivers and
peons, anybody could reach out to him.
Yes.
That was important, where Professor Piris was going around giving lectures.
Yeah.
I mean, he was not very much doing administration.
But he was lulling the diplomatic community to sleep. so that they wouldn't wake up and carry on, notice what was actually happening in the country.
Definitely, because I have had instances where during the diplomatic briefings, various ambassadors, I don't want to mention names, sending me text messages where they're all falling asleep because Professor Pires thought, I mean, anyway, he thinks we're all university students. So he keeps on. So he didn't understand. He kept on lecturing.
The news editor of the Island newspaper, who's also an avid viewer, Shamindra Ferdinando, has sent a couple of questions in. One is, he says, it's just a suggestion, maybe Malik asked the president to give lotteries to Ravi. Do you think that was a little gundu?
Never know. But then does it bother ordinary masses? They are not bothered. I mean, they are angry. We have our issues. So these things have to be solved. They are fighting for their positions, what ministry they get, but have they served us really?
Last night I had been outside, and the waiter asked me if it's true, if it's really true that the government lost all this money at the central bank. I said, the fact that you're asking me means that you know about this thing.
Looks like, read today's papers where the additional Solicitor General says, the Milinda Gunathilaka says for us, is that how much EPF money, it was EPF money which we lost.
That's right.
The people lost the money.
So, in fact, I think we had people on our programs before who made a very simple assessment. They've said, look, the EPF lost so much, and the company, one of the primary dealers, made so much. And it was almost like to say, well, look, somebody lost, somebody gained. And the person that gained, the maximum in that particular financial year, is, unfortunately or fortunately, just happens to be related to the then governor of the central bank.
Because something very interesting came during the Pathikada today. We had Minister Lakshman Yapa.
Indeed.
He said that the SLFP is waiting for the findings of this commission. And we were asked a question, and then they will have to decide at that time whether they are going to continue. This bond issue will play an important role, whether the cohabitation or whatever we call it, they'll continue.
Well, you know, we'll keep that on hold because I'm going to tell you this other story. Apparently, there are some ministry secretaries, you know, when they did the reshuffle and so on, they also reposted some of the secretaries. Now, some of them have been told by their new ministers, oh, don't come to work just yet. We're just wrapping up a few things. Come back later. My foot. Come back later. They're not the appointing authority, it's His Excellency the President.
Yeah, so President should take a stand on that.
He said, I don't think the President is aware of these little nuances like, oh, you know, Mr. XYZ.
No, that was reported in the media, so President should say, no, no way.
I did call one of the secretaries, and he's very polite, and he said, oh, no, there's nothing like that. But I said, when are you going to work? He said, maybe at the end of July. I said, what do you mean, maybe at the end of July? Are you on vacation? He said, you know, I've got to go now because I've got some work to do. She didn't really answer it. But isn't that, again, another sign of what's actually going on? Because they're nice and comfy with their Minister Secretary, who they've padded.
So this is wrong. Yes. So that's why really President should intervene, or the Prime Minister. I think it's the President who should say, look, you take it or leave it. He should take a stand.
The problem with the problems facing this President is that he's in a unity government. It's not his government.
But he has to make decisions in the interest of the people. It's just the people who elected, he was the common candidate.
Yes, but you see, I think he's also looking at the bigger picture, because if he manages to sufficiently annoy the Prime Minister, our dear Prime Minister, because he is sensitive to these things, and if he gets worked up, he might say, oh, well, you do it, then I don't want to do it, we're going to resign. Then it will place the whole country at political risk. And perhaps we're not ready for that yet. And so these must be going through President Sirisena's mind.
But he has to make decisions, you know, like, see, people at that time, they told President Rajapaksa, become a statesman, become a leader, not a politician. So looks like President Sirisena is doing the same thing. We need leaders, not just politicians, you know, because you think of the masses. That's what we need for us.
Wonderful. We have another one. The GMOA. I believe the secretary said he couldn't remember his advanced level results. For sure, he must have benefited by being an outstation candidate getting into medical university when there were other candidates having better aggregates.
Asperger's syndrome.
Ah, now you got it.
Yeah.
Asperger's syndrome.
GMO secretary. And also yesterday I read the famous Susan Boyle is suffering from it.
Now then, Bandula Jayasekara, it's been absolutely wonderful morning having you on Newsline. People can tune in to Yes FM and listen to the Talk of the Town at 7:56, where Mr. Jayasekara will be giving his views. In the meantime,
Mr. Shaukat Ali.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Bandula. Been a great pleasure. And don't forget, is it the 1st? The Government 1000 Projects Program is starting. And you'll be going to Mathura, I'll be going to Anuradhapura. And all of us, we're going everywhere. Great stuff. And that's about it that's the way it was on Newsline on Wednesday, the 28th of June, 2017. Take care. God bless.